When Luke Skywalker entered Jabba's palace, returning to his homeworld of Tatooine as a changed man, he was at an important and conflicted stage in his journey to become a Jedi Knight. I've explained this in a recent video essay about Luke's journey, but just for some brief context, one of the main points of Return of the Jedi is Luke standing between the light and dark sides of the Force. That is why George Lucas decided to dress Luke in black for the movie, not only to symbolize the dark side, but so that he would look like Darth Vader. When we see Luke enter Jabba's palace in the movie, he not only looks like Vader, but he acts like him too, choking the guards and delivering some threatening lines to Jabba. That's a detail that always stood out to me, because Luke acts pretty un-Jedi-like during those scenes, boasting about his power and just threatening to blatantly destroy Jabba. Now, the novelization of Return of the Jedi actually provides some very dark details about Luke's mental state and his thoughts during those moments in Jabba's palace, revealing that he was even closer to the dark side than originally thought. I was honestly shocked when I read these details in the book because it seems so far from Luke's character, but the book confirms that he was feeling the corruption of the dark side while inside the palace. As Luke entered the main gate, he was no longer the young farm boy that had fled Tatooine 4 years earlier. He was a man, wiser and aged by the losses he had endured. The loss of illusions, dependency, friends, sleep, laughter, and even his hand. Of all his losses, the greatest was that which came from knowledge, and from the deep recognition that he could never unlearn what he had learned. There were so many things that he wished he never knew, and he had aged with the weight of this knowledge. Knowledge brought benefits to him, of course. He was less impulsive than he had been in his youth. Manhood had granted him perspective, a framework in which to fit the events of his life. That is, a lattice of space and time coordinates spanning his existence, back to his earliest memories, ahead to 100 alternative futures. A lattice of depths and conundrums through which Luke could peer at any new event in his life with perspective. A lattice of shadows and corners, rolling back to the vanishing point on the horizon of Luke's mind. All the shadow boxes that lent him perspective also cast a certain darkness upon him. Though he may not have fully understood it, he could feel the dark side. The darkness may have given an edge to his personality, adding an odd dimension to him, but it was still darkness. There were other advantages to knowledge, and he had become skilled in the ways of the Jedi. He knew that he must continue to grow, but the sum of all his knowledge brought a certain sadness to him, even a slight hint of regret. Yet he knew that he could no longer afford to be a boy during the time of great war. Luke did not hesitate or pay any mind to choking the guards that confronted him in the main hallway of the palace. That act was not the way of the Jedi, yet Luke did not seem to notice anything wrong with his actions. That may have been an example of the darkness clouding his mind. Luke was incredibly focused when he came before Jabba, even ignoring Leia's pain and anguish, blocking it completely from his mind. He could not afford to be distracted at all. As Jabba showed no signs of cooperating, Luke changed his stance, internally and externally, informing Jabba that he could either work with them or be destroyed, and he advised the Hutt not to underestimate his powers. That last arrogant remark, so far from the behavior of a Jedi Knight, echoed the dark words of his father on Mustafar years before. Much later, after Luke had been captured and he, Han, Leia, and Chewie had been sentenced to death, Luke was unable to suppress his satisfaction. He found Jabba despicable, and thought of him as a leech of the galaxy that sucked the life from whatever he touched. Luke wanted to burn the Hutt, and so he was actually glad that Jabba had refused his offer to bargain, because he could then get his wish. While his primary objective was to rescue Han and protect his friends, the prospect of being able to kill Jabba too tinted Luke's purpose with a dark satisfaction. So, when I first read this in the Return of the Jedi book, I was completely caught off guard and blown away. Obviously, it's apparent in the movie that Luke is acting pretty different and pretty dark inside Jabba's palace. He says things that are uncharacteristic of a Jedi. He says, "Don't underestimate my powers. This is your last chance." When they're on the skiff later, he says, "Free us or die," which is like not really something that a Jedi would typically say. But this ties into the whole point of Luke's arc in the movie, and in the Star Wars archives by Paul Duncan, George Lucas explains how he wanted Luke to act and look like Darth Vader, specifically when he's introduced, and then, for the rest of the movie, how he's wearing all black. But when he comes in the beginning of the movie in Jabba's palace, he's wearing all black, he has his hood up, he, may or may not force choke the Gamorrean guards, and then he's just acting very dark and evil and violent towards Jabba, and that is 100% intentional. The point of Luke having a black outfit in the movie is so he would look like Vader, and then at the end, the flap opens and reveals the white inside, and that symbolizes that there was always light inside of him. But the point is that he wears all black because it's supposed to signal to the audience that he may turn to the dark side and become Vader at the end of the movie. And his behavior in Jabba's palace is the introduction to that. So this lore in the book, the novelization, really just gives incredible context to Luke's entire arc, not throughout Return of the Jedi only, but in the original trilogy. That's something that's also intentional by George, is Luke's character progression being symbolized by his clothing. In A New Hope, he wears white. In The Empire Strikes Back, he wears a jumpsuit that is like a beigeish gray, depending on who you ask. And in Return of the Jedi, he wears all black. And that is 100% intentional. It symbolizes his journey through the Force. It's awesome symbolism on George's part. But anyway, I love this lore from the novelization. It really fleshes out Luke's thoughts and explains how close he was to the dark side. Even at the beginning of the movie, before he's tempted at the end, when Vader threatens Leia, he's already walking between the light and dark, and the book just straight up explains that, which I love. I think that that's great. I love this lore. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you did enjoy it. And as always, may the Force be with you.